Okay, got it. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryankaravavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Friends, we are revisiting Vidura-Neeti this evening here in India, this Sunday morning in the West. Vidura-Neeti can be called another Ashtadhyayi. Those who study grammar, when they hear the word Ashtadhyayi, think of Panini's work, which has 8 chapters. Other day we opened talks on Chandogya Upanishad, and Adi Shankara, while starting his commentary, calls it Ashtadhyayi, because Chandogya Upanishad also happens to have 8 chapters. Ashta Adhyayaha Yasyam Sa Ashtadhyayi. I would call now Vidura-Neeti also Ashtadhyayi, for in Udyoga Parva, that is the 5th canto of Mahābhārata, the chapters 33 to 40, which are 8 in number, 8 chapters of Udyoga Parva are popularly known as Vidura-Neeti. As you know, the father of Pandu, of Dhritarashtra and Vidura is one sage, Veda-Vyasa. While Pandu and Dhritarashtra were born to queens of Hastināpura, Vidura was born to a dasi, to a servant maid of the queens. But look at the irony of it. Pandu and Dhritarashtra, born to the queens, father being same Veda-Vyasa, had both physical and mental limitations. And here was Dasi Putra, Vidura, wonderful, sound mind in sound body. He was an embodiment of wisdom. Without going long into the story behind Vidura-Neeti, this Udyoga Parva, in which Vidura-Neeti is found, occupying or constituting or consisting of 8 chapters, this Udyoga Parva is also called Prajagara Parva. That summarizes a lot actually. What is Prajagara? Do you know? Jagara means keeping awake. Prajagara means keeping intensely awake. This foolish Dhritarashtra, because of his unsteadiness of mind, knowing well that this Mahābhārata war would cause too much suffering to lots of people, all the same went ahead. And what is the result of that? There is a Dhritarashtra in all of us, including the speaker. Knowing well that we should not be walking a certain path, we continue to walk on that path. Knowing well we should step back from a course of action, like Dhritarashtra, we do not step back. What is the result? We won't get proper sleep at night. You know, today's medical industry would say, take this pill and sleep well, or eat this food and sleep well, do that physical exercise and sleep well. But our Dharma Shastra says, with due respect to medicine, pills, or food, or exercise, Dharma Shastra would say, if you do what needs to be done, and if you don't do what should not be done, you will sleep well. But alas, Dhritarashtra out of his tremendous attachment to Duryodhana, sticks to the wrong path. And therefore, Prajagara. Let me repeat, Udyoga Parva has a second name, Prajagara Parva, because it is in this Udyoga Parva of Mahābhārata, before the war starts, that Dhritarashtra is having sleepless nights. What will happen now? Will my son Duryodhana be killed? And all that. He calls Vidura and requests him, "Oh Vidura, please advise me what I must do." Vidura gives a strange smile. "I have advised you 100 times, you never listened. Now I am advising you for 101st time. What guarantee is there that you will listen?" Having given this background, I think it is appropriate that I now itself tell you, in this 8th chapter of Vidura-Neeti, which has 8 chapters, this is the last chapter of that Vidura-Neeti portion. This Dhritarashtra, very funny person, he says in the 31st verse, there are 32 verses. In the last one verse, he says, "You know what, Vidura? I must tell you something. All this advice that you have given me is exactly what comes up in my mind on its own. I know it all. I know it all. Satu buddhihi kritapyevam pandavan pratime sada." I too have all this understanding which you have spoken beautifully at length. But the second half of that 31st shloka is like a slap on the face of all of us. It says, Duryodhanam samasadya punar viparivartate. Moment I see my dear son Duryodhana, all my wisdom goes topsy-turvy. And I just go by what he demands. The Dhritarashtra confesses. And let me tell you now itself, I won't go to that shloka later. The very last verse out of 592 verses in Vidura-Neeti, the very last verse of the last chapter says, "Well, Vidura, thank you for telling me all this. Thank you for all this advice. But you know what? There is something called destiny. Whatever is destined to happen will happen." When I was going to college in a town called Davangere in Karnataka, this joke only South Indians will understand because there's something to do with the syntax of South Indian languages. There was a headmaster of some high school who used to come to our college once in a while. He used to say about destiny. He would say, what has to happen, whatever has to happen at whatever time. Sorry, I'm going into proper English. His English is different. What should happen at what time will happen. Can you believe? What should happen at what time will happen. That's wrong English, but in South Indian languages you have that syntax. This is not time to go into more jokes. I see faces of all of you very serious. Better I also withdraw from my jokes. Dhritarashtra says, "Nadishtam abhyatikrantum shakyam bhutena kenachit dishtameva dhruvam manye paurusham tu nirarthakam." What a pitiable statement for coming from the king of Hastināpura, Dhritarashtra. Paurusham nirarthakam, our self-effort, our saying, "I will do this," or saying, "Tomorrow onwards I won't do that," etc. is nirarthakam, says Dhritarashtra. Don't take this as the teaching. This is Dhritarashtra's deranged mind. Then what will come in effect if not our effort? This term means destiny. None of us dare challenge destiny. That alone is unchangeable. Human effort fails when faced with the dictates of fate. Saying so, What has Dhritarashtra done? Wasted the time of Vidura, wasted his own time, and for one more night he doesn't get sleep because of this instability. Anyway, friends, I am not here to tell you the whole story. Our special focus in this class is a particular verse where Vidura says, the sum and substance, the gist of all moral apparatus is to opt for what is timeless and get ready or prepare to let go of what is temporary. That shloka we will take a little later with a little slide also, but to quickly read it once. Nityo dharmaha. Dharma is nitya. Sukha dukkhe tu anitye. We go after some pleasure, we go after some comfort, we go after promotion where sometimes there is no increase of pay, but our designation is higher. We go for so many silly things. They are all anitya. Those of us who want to be truly rising in consciousness should let go of anitya. Jivaha nityaha. The spark of life in us, which goes from one life to another, is timeless. It is eternal. It doesn't die. Hetu rasyatu anityaha. Hetu, which generally means reason or cause. Hetu is cause. Our parents are our cause. And by giving this meaning, parents is the meaning of cause. What is implied is family, our house, our place of birth. Because to all these things, we get attached. And we say, you know what? I have been in this town for so long. Therefore, I am going to continue in this town. So family, place, this, that. Even when something higher comes before us, we remain with what is lower. Heturasya anitya. Therefore, the punchline which we gave in the synopsis also, Vidura advises Dhritarashtra, Tyaktva anityam pratitishtasva nitye. Let go of passing advantages and stay with what lasts long. Santushya, being satisfied with that, you will be happy. You know, this is Vidura's words. Tosha paro hi labha. That is a punchline again. Tosha paraha means those who remain content with what comes to them through dharma. Tosha, santosha means contentment. And thus avoid greed, avoid wanting much more than what is really due to them. They will actually be happy. So we'll come back to it. In 5 minutes, I want to, because I may not visit this chapter again in another webinar. In this webinar itself, let me tell you, the 8th chapter is a nice collection of gems of advice. It begins assuring anybody and everybody, anyone who keeps in touch with wise people, who puts in all energy possible. We have an expression, yatha shakti, a synonym or a phrase of same meaning is shaktim ahapayitva. You have certain energy, use that. Nobody is asking you to bring some energy from some unknown place. The time you have, employ it well. The energy you have, employ it well. Resources you have, employ it for truly valuable purposes and goals. Such people, yashaha samupaiti, that's how it begins. Success will surely come to those people who engage and employ what they have with them. And then, without going to too much Sanskrit, there are shlokas in the In the original Udyoga Parva, it is the 40th chapter. Among the 8 that constitute Vidura-Neeti, it is the 8th chapter. One of the shlokas says, if you realize that some of your wealth has come to you through unethical means, for heaven's sake, let go of that wealth. And there are certain sinful things. Don't tell lies. Or, no, sorry, it's slightly different. The financial rise that you got through lying has to be abandoned, and backbiting against others in front of kings in modern times, in front of powerful people. And then again, you want to go against a guru and so on. Okay, a quick sentence. 90% of Vidura-Neeti, if not more, is about right living. Unlike Upanishads, this is not Moksha Shastra. Atma Chintana is not talked about in Vidura-Neeti. There is a lot of advice to students in this 8th chapter. In fact, a shloka which many of you know, I'm sure, where it is said, those who go for comfort rarely get knowledge, and those who are keen on gaining knowledge in student life are able to keep away comfort. Sukhartinaha kuto vidya, nasti vidyartinaha sukham, sukharti va tyajet vidyam, vidyarthi va tyajet sukham. Students should not be attached to comfort. They should focus on gaining knowledge, vidya and sukha. And in several ways, like a summary from Vidura, who had spoken in detail, out of 592 verses. Today we are seeing this last chapter, which has 32 verses. Subtracted from 592, 560 verses were spoken before in Vidura-Neeti. Now in the last 32, Vidura says, there are several things in human life which really take away our happiness. Limitless desire and that is, desire. And sometimes people imagine that they will live forever. Vidura says, death takes away everything that you possess. Do not forget death. Then there is anger. Anger can take away literally your wealth, or even if you have wealth, if you are burning with anger, you won't enjoy it. And then there are things like miserliness. So he talks about things that every house should have. I won't go into details, but he says, maybe this has some interpretation in modern times. He says a good house should have a goat, he should have a bull, he should have sandal paste always, he should have a veena, musical instrument. I will not try to comment on this, nor have I thought much on it. Let me just read the English translation. Quoting Manu, Manusmriti perhaps has a shloka to this effect. O Bharata, addressing Dhritarashtra as Bharata, Manu has advised that to worship devatas, guests and Brahmins, the following goods should always be available in a household. Goats, bullocks, sandalwood, veena, a looking glass, honey, ghee, water, copper utensils, a conch, shankha, shalagram idols, and gorochana powder. It's not so much close to Dharma Shastra. I'll not go much into it. But now, without going more and more, then we will not be able to cover the main shloka, which is of our special interest. Though there are some really beautiful shlokas here. 12th verse. And then 13th is our main verse. In the 12th verse, I found it very powerful. I have included it in the slide also. So, 12th verse says, I'll read just the second half. Na jatu kamat, na bhayat, na lobhat, dharmam jahyat, jivitasyapi hetoho. Very powerful advice. Whether we are in our 40s or 50s, 60s, 70s, or in 80s, this applies. Because this is one of the main errors human beings do. What is that? They give up Swadharma and chase Paradharma. You know, in Gita, Sri Krishna says, Swadharme Nidanam Shreyaha Paradharmo Bhayavaha. Joseph Campbell in the United States put it in a modern language. Follow your bliss. Or in simple language, it can be said, do those things which you love. For the sake of money, for the sake of social status, for the sake of pleasing some X or Y, do not be endlessly engaged in things which actually are not close to your heart. Do things which are close to your heart. That's what Joseph Campbell called follow your bliss. How long do you want to go on earning? How long do you want to go on dancing to the tunes of this mad society? So how Vidura puts it, dharmam na jahyat. Don't leave. Dharma here is swadharma. You are good at something. Be in it. Put your heart and soul into that. And through that, serve the society. Don't be in something where you are not really good, but you are getting more money, as I explained before. Not out of some fanciful desire, kamat, not out of some fear, bhayat, not out of greed, lobhat, not even out of fear of death, jivitasyapi hetoho, swadharmam na jahyat. A powerful advice, expressed much more powerfully than Sri Krishna does in Bhagavad Gita, in a sense. Though he said, Swadharme nidanam shreyaha, that's also very powerful. But here too, jivitasyapi hetoho, swadharmam na jahyat. Don't move away for some temptation. Find you who you are. Find how God has made you. Find how God has created you with what kind of skill and talent. Though in the society it may not be a big thing. It may be a small service where you are good, but do it. Now, without dilly-dallying, I'll come to that eternal versus ephemeral. Give me a minute. Let me open at this time. Slide sharing. Okay, here. Okay. Everything is coming. Can one of you tell me whether you are able to see this slide?
Yes, Swamiji, we can see.
Good. For sometimes speakers go on and on without realizing. Okay, now I come back here. So, it's an interesting date today, 2022, May 22, and webinar 222. That apart, we are revisiting Vidura-Neeti. The title we have given to the chosen shloka is Leave the ephemeral, hold the eternal. On various levels, vertically and horizontally, we human beings remain attached to the passing show, the ephemeral. Vidura says to Dhritarashtra, And through Dhritarashtra says to all of us, can you lift your eyes and behold the eternal? Let's see. This we said before, but for some of you who have joined newly, Mahābhārata has 100,000 shlokas, Shatasahasri they call it. In that there are 18 parvas. The fifth parva is called Udyoga Parva, also called Prajagara Parva. And there the chapters 33 through 40, those 8 chapters are called Vidura-Neeti. That's where Dhritarashtra sends a messenger to get Vidura, and Vidura comes over and then begins to instruct Dhritarashtra. 592 verses, and the 8th chapter has 32 verses. Here we are, eternal versus ephemeral. Eternal means that which defies time. A youngster once asked Swami Chinmayananji, this was 1988 if I remember right, in the beautiful Sri Krishna temple in Bangalore, Indiranagar. That youngster is a well-known Swamiji now, let me not mention his name. He actually was member of Yuva Kendra that time, youth wing. He asked Swamiji, why do we have the same old Bhagavad Gita even today? That youngster was doing some software job in some company in Bangalore. He said, in software we have new versions coming up, 7.0, 9.2, 12.3, etc. Why don't we bring out a new version of Gita? And Gurudev Chinmayananji roared. He loudly said, look, 5,000 years ago also, we human beings used to see with these holes called the eyes. We used to hear through these holes called the ears. We used to eat through this hole called the mouth. He made it very humorous. Nobody says, why not we see with some other holes in this 20th century? That time it was 20th century. Nobody says, we have come a long way. Civilization has come a long way. Why not we hear through some other holes than the ears? Oh, dear youngster. But he so loudly said the name of the boy also. He said, just as we continue to hear through the ears, see through the eyes, read through the mouth, we continue to learn from the Gita. There are certain things which are timeless. Whether it's time of Rama and Ravana, or Yudhishthira and Duryodhana, or our own times. Shall we say Modi and Sonia Gandhi, or whatever, Biden and Trump, or other countries have their leaders. I'm not comparing Trump with Ravana or Sonia Gandhi with Ravana. Sorry, the comparison should not be stretched to that extent. But today we have big figures. No matter what the time is, there are certain things which are timeless. Then there are lots of things which come and go. In Hindi they say, Ayaram Gayara. It's all a passing show. If we ask Vidura, tell us an example of something timeless and something that is a passing show. The very first line of this shloka says, Nityo dharma. Dharma is timeless. Study dharma shastra. And what is anitya, passing show? Sukha dukkha. We ate an ice cream and felt so good. And though we are diabetic, we said, let me take one more today. Tomorrow onwards, I'm not going to even see ice cream. You took one more. But will that pleasure stay long? Sukha and dukkha. Thank God, dukkha also is anitya. Sukha dukkhe anitye dharmaha nityaha. Jiva, we are on a deeper level, a conscious principle, learning and growing rising to higher maturity levels, and that Jiva Tattva is eternal, Nitya. And Hetu, we came from certain parents and then the family, then everything around us. However strong a bond it seems to be, it is Anitya. Tyaktva Anityam Pratitishtasva Nitye. O Dhritarashtra, Pratitishtasva means Pratishtam, Labasva. Get anchored. Get anchored, don't delay it, says Vidura. And for that, you have to let go of Anitya. To quote Chinmayananji once more, he summarized all spiritual practices in two expressions: attach and detach. Attach to God, detach from the passing pleasures of the world. Which doesn't mean any irresponsibility. Whatever is our duty, no Shastra asks us to let go of our duty. On the contrary, Satyam Vada, Dharmam Chara. You have to do your duty. But everybody knows in our heart of hearts, for an ounce of duty, we have actually pounds and pounds of things that are none of our business, but we have a fancy for it. Or sometimes we have a certain revengefulness about it. I want to teach that person a lesson. Is that your business? I guess it is my business. I guess I should teach him. I myself and nobody else. I believe two people were trying to kill Hitler. Once there was this little information in Reader's Digest. There is some section where short, interesting things are given. And they found out with great effort that the next morning Hitler would be passing by a certain road. And these two guys somehow managed to hide behind a bush on that road or by the side of that road with guns ready. Hitler perhaps often went on an open jeep. And they said, let him come here and we will shoot him down. And he was supposed to pass by at that point at about 9 a.m. These guys were there at 8:30, ready. 8:45, 9, 9:10, 9:20, 9:30, 10 o'clock he didn't. The last line of that episode is very interesting. They looked at each other with surprise. How come Hitler did not come this way? And one of them said, I hope somebody else has not killed him already. See, they were so bent upon their killing him. I hope somebody else did not kill him already. Our foolish mind is like that. We want to dispense justice. We want to take law in our hands. And that is how, we are unable to let go. So this teaching somebody, a lesson, dispensing justice to the town around us, we have to examine. I don't want to make the last statement. Everybody should examine. Is it our business really? Maybe once in a while it is, I don't deny. But probably 9 out of 10 times, it's none of our business to try to teach Tom, Dick and Harry some lesson of their life. We rather examine, not in an irresponsible manner, not to save our skin, not to go for a comfort zone, but out of viveka, out of clear discrimination that this is not my job. Then who will do it? I trust God. God will get this done. This man, this lady is doing something terribly wrong. But let me not take law in my hands. So 9 out of 10 times, there are things which is none of our business, but we get into it. Maharshi Ramana, of course, spoke from a very high level. He often said, the one who created this universe is in charge. The one who created this universe is getting everything done at the right time. Leave it to him. Leave it to God. But you and I sometimes get so identified with some situation. So, Pujya Swami Chinmayananji said, that looks very difficult. But I don't mind telling you frankly, I myself have found I've overcome certain hurdles, not by fighting with those hurdles so much, but by holding God. Just increase the japa you do in a day. Just be more regular in your yogasana and pranayama. Just be more regular in your shastra dhyayana, that is studying scriptures. Just increase it. If you are doing 10 minutes average, make it 15 minutes a day. That is what Swamiji called attach. Attach comes first. Attached to Shastra, attached to Guru, attached to Ishvara. Shastra, Guru and Ishvara. Attach more, you will be surprised. What you thought was impossible to detach from becomes possible, becomes easier. You will have a certain spontaneous energy. You will easily see whether it's getting up early in the morning or if you are a diabetic, lifted the gulab jamun, putting it back there, let's say. It comes more easily to you, provided you have done sadhana. So friends, we don't have some high teaching this evening in this webinar. Tyaktva anityam. I added a comma there. Pratitishtasva nitye. Anityam tyaktva nitye pratishtam apnuhi. Get. Labasva, vindasva. Get pratishta. Get anchored. Then santushya. You will be so content. Much of your sorrow is because of embracing paradharma. Stay with your Swadharma. See? Rather than asking you to criticize yourself, live in self-condemnation, this beautiful science tells you to live in love of yourself. I am fine the way God has made. I don't sing well, I don't speak well, I don't write well, I don't cook well, I don't run well. But I am good, in some small thing, maybe keeping my house clean. I keep my house clean. I'm good at that. Other day, somebody sent to me a well-known story, all of you know. I'm not saying that story is to be 100% embraced, but it's the story of Colonel Sanders. Some of you know who Colonel Sanders was. He was up to the age of 65. Failure, failure, and failure. Lost jobs, failed economically, lost money, lost many relationships. Colonel Sanders was in the army but was let go of, was in railway service, was relieved. And there's a WhatsApp video on that. And at the age of 65, broken really, Colonel Sanders sat and wondered, what am I good at? Once more, I don't say that is the complete description of Swadharma. Swadharma is much more than a mere skill, but it points to that, points to a larger possibility. Colonel Sanders had served as a cook in some restaurants for many years. And he looked back and discovered that of all the jobs I did, where again and again I was shunted out, the job that I did as a cook was the one much appreciated. Then he came out with some recipe of, that became Kentucky Fried Chicken, KFC. Now, even in India, at all kinds of big towns, there is a KFC corner. And he became a billionaire before he breathed his last. Normally, these stories finally connected to money. That's where I am telling you, don't take the story fully. Money is not a measure of true success. When Sri Krishna praised Swadharma, in no way he meant stick to Swadharma, you will make a lot of money. Impossible. Stick to Swadharma, you will find meaning in life. Stick to Swadharma, you will find joy and peace in your life. Stick to Swadharma, lastly, you will move on to your next life, your jiva being enriched. The personality left behind in the world with all its bank balance is all gone. The jivatma goes on, right? Moves on. The jivatma is enriched by sticking to Swadharma. Not, it's not about dollars or rupees. So we don't have any high teaching here, but the simple teaching, you will be happy. I guess I had something more also. This is the last slide. It's 2 or 3 slides I made. I already explained. This is actually second half of the shloka, though I put it in 4 lines. Na jatu kamat dharmam jahyat. Dharmam jahyat is the main sentence. Out of some temptation, don't give up your swadharma. Na bhayat. Out of fear. If I give up my job, which is having a lot of social status, though I don't like the job, my father-in-law will be angry with me or somebody, Na bhayat dharmam jahyat. Na lobhat dharmam jahyat. Jivitasyapi hetoho dharmam na jahyat. Na dharmam jahyat is the main sentence. So Campbell said, follow your bliss. I believe many people wrote books on this title. Someone wrote a book, Follow Your Bliss, with a second title, second line. Otherwise, what's the point? I think some lady's name was there on the internet when I took this picture. So friends, I have just gone about the topic in a rather general way, but I personally felt Vidura's parting advice was and is for all of us very powerful. And you and I have to work our way by deciding that, okay, tomorrow onwards I'm not going to go for Anitya, I'll stay only with Nitya, nothing will happen. We have to introspect, we have to pray more, we have to, set right our way of living in several ways. Because we are against a huge Kaurava army here. Kaurava army, was 11 Akshauhinis size. Pandava army was smaller, 7 Akshauhinis. So we too, I would at the end of this webinar would say, we are not only against the situations outside, our own hormones, so many secretions. I've been asking medical people to give me a proper list. Something called adrenaline, something called something else. There are so many, endorphin. There are so many of them. And you may have read Gita, you may have taught Gita, but when some particular hormone, some particular secretion of some gland rises in good measure, with all knowledge, you, the diabetic, will grab not 1, not 2, but 5 gulab jamuns and eat them. So that is the Kaurava army, the hormones, and maybe there are other words for those secretions. The secretion probably is a very general word. Number of secretions inside you. How do you work them out? Whether it is working on your own problems, or you're advising somebody, some son, some daughter. Some people advise their gurus also. They advise their father, their mother, their whatever. Remember, whether it is your own problem or somebody's problem, you or somebody else is fighting a huge Kaurava army of so many secretions in the body, so much of previous programming in the maybe neural circuits or whatever you call. It's not an easy job. Therefore, we are told, Kuru avadhanam, mahadavadhanam, bhajagovindam. Do it slowly, do it steadily. Go on working on yourself. Don't expect quick results that tomorrow morning you will be detached, while this evening you are so attached. Overnight you are not going to change. Therefore, this Dharma Shastra is indeed wonderful. It's good reminders. It makes us turn within, and then we find our own ways. We must again and again see what it is that drove us in the wrong direction and continues to drive us in the wrong direction. Wrong. Shiva Shiva. Right. All right. Let me stop here, and I welcome questions, comments, constructive criticism, and some advice also. Screen sharing has stopped. Yeah, that's fine. Okay, your time.
Very nice, Swamiji. We really learned something to be slow and
Janaki Ram
steady.
said, let us also recall today chapter 2, verse 22 from Bhagavad Gita.
That is about like we discard old clothes and wear new clothes. The soul.
Vasamsi jirnani. Is that 22nd shloka?
Yes, from a very young age, I remember 222.
Oh, okay. Thank you for pointing that out. That's good. Okay. So Krishnan said, did you say you liked this topic?
Yeah, I liked it. It was very nice. You were saying we're to be slow and steady and we're to follow the path that we all know, but we sometimes digress from there and start advising others rather than following our own Swadharma. I think you reinforce that very well. Thank you.
Thank you, Krishna. Some people have given greetings, expressed their greetings on chat box. Hari Om, Pranam, etc. Hari Om to you too. Namaste and best wishes to you too. Yes, Umaji wants to ask something. Your box went illumined.
No.
If you speak, you know that your box becomes, the border gets illumined. Looks green. Which book on Vidura-Neeti? Oh, I should show you. I hope everybody can see this. Well, Gita Press has a wonderful book, Vidura-Neeti, light, and with English translation. Vidura-Neeti by Gita Press, Gorakhpur, with the Devanagari as well as English translation, shloka and translation. Pretty good. I have been using this. No commentary, but shloka and translation. Gita Press, Gorakhpur. Code 2001, book number. Okay, then. Do not hesitate to ask a question or say something.
Swamiji, if I may ask a question?
One moment, there is... No, you ask first. One moment, there is somebody sitting with me here in Himachal. Yeah, I'm not always alone. I have some people with me. Yeah.
How does one find Swadharma? How do you define Swadharma?
So he asked me, my guest here, how does one find Swadharma and how do we define Swadharma? Yes. How do we find? It's through trial and error and honest introspection. In a limited sense, Colonel Sanders did that. Of all the jobs he did, where was it that he was appreciated, he loved doing it, etc. But I said, Swadharma is much more than mere professional skill. It is also about the way to live, or things like, am I of the nature of commanding and governing, or am I of the nature of letting go and somewhat, soft-natured? If I'm soft-natured, I must remain soft-natured. Within that soft-natured framework, I can be assertive. I need not shout like somebody, I need not yell like somebody. But some people who have a nature like that, they're comfortable with that. So coming back, how it is by a lot of self-observation, trial and error, and how do we define? That's a distinct question, you are right. My definition for that is, Swadharma is that, whether professional work or way of living or way of dealing with situations, etc., it is that where doing that itself gives happiness rather than the reward at the end of the job. So if you are made for a financial job, you would love to get good salary, but even if you don't get as much salary as somebody else, if you love doing the happiness, let me put it in a little mathematical figure. 70% of your happiness comes from the work itself. 30%, of course, with the paycheck or with appreciation from people. So if there is a good amount, a good percentage of your happiness comes from the work itself or the nature of the way of behaving. Somebody's nature is to punish. Let's say my nature, let's say, is to forgive. I forgave somebody, and whole town criticized me, but I felt at peace with my forgiving. Then that is my Swadharma, right? And let me conclude my answer to you. There is the story of a pious man who tried to save a scorpion. Scorpion was drowning. Every time the scorpion bit him, he shook and it fell down. Again he was trying. Then another passerby said, "Are you foolish? Why are you trying to save that scorpion? Every time it's biting you. Don't you know it's the nature of scorpion to bite you?" Then the pious man answered in that interesting story, "Sir, don't you know my nature is to try to help somebody?" So that kind of thing. So nothing is easy. So first part, how do we identify by trial and error? How do we define where the work itself, the behavior itself, the chosen course of action itself gives to us a great amount of satisfaction, rather than whether we succeeded or failed. Though we do value success or failure. Yes, back to Jyoti.
But Swadharma also is related to which ashrama we are in. Like many of us
in
are
olden days.
And then situation in life or abilities.
Oh yeah. But in modern times, this ashrama, this varna, etc., are all becoming less and less relevant. In fact, I didn't mention the 8th chapter of Vidura-Neeti has 4 shlokas, how Brahmana should behave, how Kshatriya should behave, how Vaishya should behave, and how Shudra should behave. I ran short of time also, but it requires a lot of re-examination. First of all, you have to de-link birth from, it should be more taken as personality types. But I agree with you. Our station, our, where we belong, how we were raised, so many things determine our Swadharma. Oh, sorry, got delayed. Yeah, please.
Swamiji, actually, the gentleman actually asked the question who's sitting next to you. That was my question.
Oh, how nice.
So that's done. But is this Swadharma sort of like our vasanas too? Is that related, connected? Correct?
Yes, Swamiji
Swami
often connected Swadharma with vasanas. And see, vasanas are of many kinds. Some vasana could be for enjoyment. Somebody has a coffee vasana. Swami Chinmayananji used to humorously say, morning you get up and more than Shiva, Rama or Krishna coming, coffee, 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 coffee. to think of coffee, That is a vasana for enjoying something. But what you would like to do, what work you like to do, what cause you would like to pursue, also is a vasana. And Swamiji in his commentaries talked about exhausting vasanas. And there also he said, if you stay in Swadharma, you will be able to exhaust the vasanas for that particular, and you will rise above all vasanas. Finally, you need to realize that you are the pure consciousness which has no vasanas of its own. True, it's connected with vasanas.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, Amit has raised a hand, I guess.
Hari Om,
Please.
Swamiji. Very good
tell
talk
me.
and very good messaging on leaving the ephemeral and holding on to the eternal. But I have a question, in our day-to-day lives, especially if you're in the heat of the moment, you lose track of that. So any guidance or suggestions you may have as to how do you keep in mind, that messaging of what is ephemeral and what is important and what you need to hold on as you're going through your day-to-day life?
Yes. So, no matter how busy we are, as Stephen Covey would say, on a weekly basis, have some amount of study, some amount of meditation, and some amount of exercise. It's just like, you have a lens with which you examine things, and the lens has got a little dust upon it. There is no other way of seeing properly through that lens other than cleaning the dust. So a bit of study, even if it is for 10 minutes, a bit of exercise, you would sit down and 10 minutes of pranayama, or a short walk. I have that XMS formula, right? Exercise, meditation, and study. So a little bit of exercise, a little bit of meditation here and there, and a little bit of study. It doesn't have to be the Sanskrit works. I've been reading for last 6 months now, Indra Nui's autobiography. Yesterday with my friend here, in between, I had just 10 minutes free time. I said, let me just, on my Kindle I read, and it was so fascinating how when she took up the job in GE, General Electric, General Electric was her competitor. She took the job in ABB, Asia Brown Boveri, whatever. General Electric with the Welsh, right? Jack Welch as the legendary CEO was their competitor. She talks about how the meetings used to be held, how her boss would give a lot of importance to her, and she would feel a bit embarrassed because there are many other executives. She shares the way she rose through the corporate ladder. And why I'm saying that is, it's not a Sanskrit scripture, Gita or Upanishad. It's a successful executive, former CEO of PepsiCo, our own, girl from Chennai, Indra Nui. So sharing the scenarios, you talked of day-to-day things. And her assiduousness, very, I sometimes wonder how she remembers all those things. Did she maintain a diary? In her book, there are such fine details, whether it is the corporate issues or what she went through trying to find a nanny, how the first child, she met with a very bad accident in Chicago. She took a turn, and next thing is she found herself in an ICU in some hospital. All that also does something to us. It awakens in us, in you and me also, a certain proactivity. This girl who grew up in Chennai, where all of us have gone many times, the way she moved up, through certain focus, flexibility, ready to learn, being ready to adapt, etc. So study includes both Shastra Dhyana as well as some general study. So keep several things ready. One day your hand goes to the shelf to pick up Gita. But 2 inches short of Gita, it says, no, today I don't want to read Gita. No problem. Just to pick up, some other nice book. Generally choose, like Ranjini actually showed me some years ago, Michael Singer's book. You had a group in anything that was studying. That time I didn't take it very seriously. I, of course, recorded it. About 2 years later, that became my favorite, Michael Singer's, what's that book called? The Untethered Soul. Wow, what a wonderful book it is. So such things actually inspire us, give us a new angle of view. And what was the main question about? The ephemeral, yeah. The ephemeral and the eternal. So in day-to-day life, it is not Brahma versus Vishaya. It is about two decisions where one is leaning towards short-term gains, another is towards a little long-term gains. Or one option could be about just you and your spouse. Another option could be the whole family of yours, or an extended circle. This way we go, all the members of my family, including our Swamiji, will be happy. Let's say, so, a larger circle. Then you go for that. That is the eternal in this context.
Thank you so much, Swamiji.
Welcome. Anyway, one last question.
Swamiji, this is Pravina. Sorry, I was in YouTube, and just by the time I moved, maybe you might have already.
No problem. Welcome, Pravina.
So one thing in this context reminds me, one time you mentioned Sri Krishnamurti saying, when somebody asked a question, when somebody points a gun at you, what would you do at that time? Do you run away? Or so his answer was that if you start living in more dharmic and a ethical way, it'll come to you naturally when there's a crisis comes, how the decisions to be.
True. Beautiful. That in fact, you are right. You narrated it perfectly. And that answer by Krishnamurti had a great impact on me. That is, it's not about putting on the wall what I should do and what I should not do. It's about living every day. You use the word dharma. Krishnamurti said in awareness, going by the teachings. His teachings are mostly about awareness.
Mm-hmm.
So day after day, if you and I live in relatively greater alertness, something changes in us. And then at the time of a temptation or a provocation, our response will be mature, whether we want it or not. Whereas day after day, we just live mechanically. And then we have a book, how to respond to somebody if he shows a revolver at me. We have a book. That book won't help.
Thank you, Swamiji.
You can't say to the man with a revolver, hey, give me a minute. I'll just refer to the book and get back. We have to change inside. Therefore, my formula XMS also, though it may not be so accurate on that high plane of J. Krishnamurti, it's actually about rising in awareness.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
So wonderful. We meet again the next webinar and other classes. Namaste, everyone.